For today's assignment, you guys are going to be focusing on the theme of your poem. So the theme of the poem is its central or main idea. What idea is this poem trying to convey? And in order to figure out what the theme is, you want to ask yourself, what ideas or insights does this poem help to portray about life or human nature? So the big question is, how do I figure out the message? How do I figure out the theme? Poetry is so hard. Poetry is so confusing. So hopefully what we've done throughout the course of the week so far is going to help you try to hone in your idea and figure out what that message or theme is. So the problem is that sometimes poetry is difficult. And the other problem is that very rarely in poems or stories will the author directly come out and say, this is what you're supposed to learn from reading this. Instead, you need to look at the characters or you need to look at the speaker and figure out what did they learn over the course of the story, or what did they learn over the course of the poem in order to uncover that theme. So universal themes are one kind of theme that you'll often see. And the universal theme is different than a typical or a general theme, because a universal theme shines a light on common experiences throughout the world. A universal theme is the same here as it is across the world in India or Australia. And so these are things, if you look at the bottom of this slide, that deal with basic human concerns, what we at our very core are worried and concerned about. Good versus evil, life and death, love and loss are all examples of universal themes. And then what the message portrays about these particular topics will be a universal theme from the story. For example, if you think of the epic poem Beowulf and how Beowulf battles Grendel and then Grendel's mother, and then he even battles the dragon at the end of his life, that's going to show us a good versus evil universal theme. And then what do we learn about that? We learn that good does not always win against evil. And so that's the theme we can gain from that topic of good versus evil. So how can you go about uncovering or finding the theme of your poem? You want to always keep these ideas in mind. The theme is not the same thing as the subject. As I was just talking about in the last slide, the subject of the poem is like a 1 to 3 word, a 1 word or like up to a 3 word phrase of what the topic is. What is this poem about? Is this poem about loyalty? Is this poem about love? Is this poem about war? These are topics. The theme is more of a statement, some revelation about that subject that needs to be expressed in a sentence. So if we take this subject of loyalty and we wanted to garner a theme from it, loyalty to a leader is not always noble. So you shouldn't always be loyal to a leader if that leader is not doing the right thing. Okay, so that can be a theme or some revelation about that topic or subject of loyalty. So what should you look for in your poem? You want to look at whether the character or speaker learned something by the end of the poem that they didn't know at the beginning. So this we can think back to that luxury poem by Nikki Giovanni, where in the beginning she's all about the material objects, and by the end she figures out that it's not about those material objects. That's not what luxury is. It's what love is, what luxury is. So that speaker learned something by the end. Is the speaker trying to teach something? So does the speaker know something that they're trying to impart that knowledge on the reader or on the other character in the poem that maybe the speaker is speaking to? Is there a conflict in the poem, and how was that conflict resolved? A lot of times, if there's a problem in the poem, and then by the end of the poem, there's some kind of solution, we can figure out what the theme is from that solution. That good will come to those who wait, or, practice makes perfect, or perfect practice makes perfect, I suppose. But you want to look at what the problem is, if there is a problem in the poem, and how it gets resolved by the end. Look at the title. It will give you clues oftentimes. So look at that title and try to figure out if it gives you any clues. And then also, in a poem in particular, see if there's repetition, because that can give you a clue too. If there are lines that are repeated, those are often lines that are repeated because they are important to the main concept or theme of the poem. So, how do you write your theme? This is not tricky. I don't want you to think this is tricky. The idea of this is to make you feel comfortable, because when you state what the theme is, I'm not going to tell you you're right or you're wrong. I might try to help guide you in the direction of what I see, but what I see is going to be different than what you see. We can state similar ideas in different ways. So it might be the same idea that you and I have, but we say it differently. And the other thing is, there's often more than one theme in a poem and more than one interpretation in a poem in particular, when we're talking about themes in poetry. And then there's often different opinions of what the main theme is. Because we have different interpretations of the poem, then we might have different ideas of what the theme or the message of that poem is. So I hope you don't feel like you're going to be wrong about this. I just want you to try to find what you feel is the message from the poem. So if we're taking a look at the poem that I've kind of been guiding you with throughout the course of this week, I mentioned it in the beginning that the theme is that, or the topic is, I'll say what the topic is. The topic of this poem is a life lesson. The mother is giving the son a life lesson. So that's the topic. Now, what is the theme? The theme, I'm going to go a little deeper, and I'm going to say that no matter how hard life gets, you should not give up. That is the theme. That is the message that this mother is trying to impart on her son. And she goes about it through her use of figurative language, through her use of repetition. So when I look at the poem, I highlighted the title, Mother to Son, because that gives me a clue. This mother is trying to impart some kind of knowledge on her son. And then we've got the repetition of the life for me ain't been no crystal stair at both the beginning and the end of the poem. You might even have it embedded throughout the middle of your poem if you have repetition. And so that's a really important clue. So we've got that, again, that figurative language, that metaphor. Life hasn't been easy for me. And she says it again at the end. Life hasn't been easy for me. But we have this red part here, which is kind of like the what she's learned, right? She's learned that no matter how hard it gets, she is going to keep on going. She's got to keep on moving. She has to for her son in order to hopefully help make his life better. So she's trying to give him the understanding, teach him that no matter how hard it gets, you got to keep on going. All right? So your task for today is to identify both the topic of the poem and the theme of the poem. So like 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, that's going to be your topic. And then the theme is going to be a statement, a sentence. What is the revelation? What is the understanding about that topic? You're going to look at the title. You're going to look at the figurative language, the speaker, so the things that we've kind of been talking about so far this week. Identify if there's any repetition within the poem, and look at what the speaker may have learned by the end, and use all of that to help you then gather your theme. If you have questions, please come see me in room 201, or you can send me a message or a text, and I'm happy to help you guys. Good luck.